Welcome to the Richard Lloyd USA YouTube channel. I'm Richard Lloyd. Today I'm going to be doing a video on putting DD-WRT on a router. That is a third-party software for your router. I'm going to be doing it on a Netgear R7000, but it applies to other Netgears as well. R6700 I've done it on, and also a 7000P, and I'm sure it works on many other routers as it's a fairly compatible third-party firmware. Now, why would you want to do this? Well, stock firmware on routers is pretty limited as to what you can do on it. Generally, it's set up by the manufacturer to just do, just a plug and play. Basically, turn on the router, set it up with your modem, and go surf the internet. That's it. Set up Wi-Fi and so on. But there's a lot more things that you can do with your router. And here's a list on the screen for DD-WRT. So I'm going to show you how to put that on that firmware on the router in some super cool things you can do with it. But another thing about this third-party firmware is that a lot of routers have become what they call legacy devices. In other words, the manufacturer no longer supports them. What that means is that regularly you'll get a new firmware update to your router, and usually, not usually, but in a lot of routers that just automatically happens. And those are fixes for security vulnerabilities and bugs, and basically updates to the router to make it work better. Now, at a certain point, they stop doing this for these routers, and then you can't get that kind of support for your router anymore, and it becomes kind of vulnerable on the internet because, hey, your firmware is 2 years old, and there's been like 1,400 exploits since then that haven't been fixed on your router, and so therefore your router becomes more and more likely to be hacked. So putting a third-party firmware on there like this keeps it updated indefinitely, and the DD-WRT is open source firmware. It's kept up by a community of open source programmers, which means all the software and all the firmware can be looked at by anybody and fixed by this community or anybody else who knows how to fix these softwares or firmware, and then update it to the web page. And this happens weekly. At least once a week I get a new update. So now again, you have to manually do these updates, but it's not a big deal. So I'm going to show you how to do this, and you can see here all the many things you can do with this router. But that's the biggest deal here is regular security updates and fixes down here. Note that there's, if you don't do this correctly, you might take your router permanently out of commission. But I'm showing you an R7000, which I have 3 separate videos to show you how to recover it. And I've never had a problem recovering the router with using one of those 3 separate methods. So cards up top for those. And again, it's straightforward. As long as you follow the rules and do exactly what I show on this video, you should be just fine. And by the way, you can revert it back to stock firmware later, and I'll probably make a separate video on how to do that with this. But otherwise, if you want to revert this before I make that second video on how to revert it back to stock, the same procedure that you use to do a hack rescue with this router, and again, cards up here, will revert it back to stock. So let's go get this stuff. Let's open up a browser window here, and we're going to go do a web search for DD-WRT. Now I'm assuming that your router is currently working just fine and that you have an R7000 or something similar that's compatible with DD-WRT, and I'll show you how to check for that. So we'll do a search for DD-WRT, and there you get the web page right off the bat, and there you go. Accept the cookies, and you can go to the router database here, plug your router name in. Mine is R7000. And you can see that it updates and says, yes, it's supported right here and right here. The R7000P and the R7000 are both supported. Now, you got to be real careful with this stuff because you see that there's a revision number too. These 2 routers only have 1 revision, but many routers have version 1, 2, 3, whatever. You have to get the right firmware and the right version of your router. So if you have a R7000 version 1, that's the one you use. If you get an R7000P version 1, that's the one you use. If there's other versions, choose the one that's appropriate for your version. Okay, so you can see here that it's available, and it's the R7000. I'm just going to click on that link, and then you can come here and you see that there is a supported by 44715 beta. And here are the images you're going to need. These are 2 firmware files, and this router in particular, and most Netgears, need 2 firmware files to make this happen, okay? And you have to use them both every time you update it or upgrade it, or revert it into this DD-WRT firmware. Now, you can see here that this is fairly old firmware. It's 2020 1103 on the dates on this stuff. That's 2 years, 3 years old now, right? You don't have to use that stuff. You can go over here to other downloads. You know, part of the reason I use it is because I want the latest and greatest. So 2020 is not the latest and greatest. Go to other downloads here. Go to betas. Then you get all the years. And if you want the latest year, of course, you do. It's 2023. You go here. And then you scroll down to the latest one, which is the released on 06/06/2023, and it's the R52894. Now this will change within a week. This will change. There'll be a new one because they always keep updating. And if you look at the dates, you see that the last one before this one, it was on the 2nd, and then one before that was on the 27th, 26th, 24th, 23rd. Sometimes daily updates, right? As you can see, as they fix problems and make things better. So that's what I like about it, and basically it keeps you secure, your router secure and safe on the internet. And the other thing about this also is that it has a built-in firewall, and that firewall works really well. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to configure this router too to run the best with this firmware, at least the best that I found with this firmware. So we're going to go and get this file. Now I want to show you one more thing. If you do a search for DD-WRT and then go FTP, you can go directly to their FTP site. As you can see, you'll get a bunch of links to the FTPs. And FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol, which is another way of downloading files off the internet. So I'm going to go to the 2023 FTP site, and you can see that they're all listed here. And again, you can find them, all your routers that are compatible with this firmware here. And there's a bunch, as you can see, but the one we want is the R7000, which is right there. They're the same 2 files. They're just, I find that this is just an easier way to go get these files. But we'll dig it off the website. I'll go down here to the last one. I just wanted to show you that. Then here, just do Control F on your keyboard. That gives you the find feature, and just type in R7000 in this case. And I'm a little off the screen there. There we go. And you can find that it gives you 7000p as the first one. So got to watch out for that, right? I don't want the 7000p. I want the 7000. The 7000p will basically brick this router. You won't be able to get into it. You'll have to recover it. So right files, right version, okay? Now there's 2 files here. I'm going to download them both. You need them both. So we're going to take that one, and I'm going to put it on my desktop, on my working directory for this. There we go. So it's easy to find. And then there's another one here, and we'll drop it in that same folder. So now we're ready. We got the firmware. Now the next thing you're going to have to do is set up the hardware to make this happen. And the way you do that is by plugging an Ethernet cable into the back of the router. I usually use LAN port 1. You could use 2 if you wished. You know, any one of the LAN ports will do. Okay. And note here that there's a reset hole over here. That's where you reset this router. You may have to do that. In fact, we're going to do that in a minute. So that's hook up an Ethernet cable to the back of the router. Disconnect it from your modem too. So let's go back one. And so I can show you that. Yeah, here we go. So disconnect the cable going to the modem, because you don't want this hooked up to your modem or anything other than you and the computer. The other end of the cable is going to go into either your Ethernet port on your laptop or on your PC. And if you don't have one of those, I always point this out. Okay, let's go to the next one. My actual Ethernet port on my laptop is broken. It still works, but it doesn't lock the clip. So instead of having the chance of that thing popping out in the middle of a flash, I use this. This is an Ethernet to USB adapter, and it's 1 gigabit USB 3. Links for this stuff in the video description. Please use those to help me out. And it doesn't cost you any more than just going straight to Amazon. So you're helping me out. You get it for the same price. And also, you make sure you get the same piece that I'm using in the video that you know works. Yeah, so I've used this. It works just fine. Okay, so we go to the back of the computer and plug the other end into it, into an Ethernet port on there. If you don't have one, again, these are like $12, $13, $14 on Amazon. Real cheap and real handy. I use this on other things. I'll show you how I use this on my phone to test networks, and it's really cool. So off we go on that. Now back here, I'm showing you on this router next to LAN port 4, the reset. I use a toothpick because it's made out of wood, it's soft, and it doesn't conduct electricity or static electricity, so there's no way of actually, damaging your router using this. So that's what I use to reset it. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But that's the physical setup that you need. Once you've done that, I'm going to go down here. Actually, you don't need to. But you can see that I'm currently connected to this router right here. And though it says Open WRT, it's not. Let's go back. It is right here. Netgear R7000P, and it's still wrong. It's not labeling it right. It's not a 7000P. It is a 7000. So I'm connected to it. You should be too. And when you connect it, power it up, and you should connect right to it. So there we go. We've got that part done. We've got the firmware. Next, let's go over here and connect to the router. Once you've got it connected and powered up, you go to 192.168.1.1. Now, if you don't, that's the default IP address. If you've changed it, it'll be something else, but you can easily find out what it is by clicking your network icon down here, going to the actual Ethernet connection. You can see the computer with the Ethernet cable there, and clicking on that, change adapter options. And of course, this is the only one connected, so other than I don't even have Wi-Fi. I took that off. Go to status on your network connection. Go to details, and you'll see right here the IP addresses. One that matters is the gateway, the DHCP server, and DNS server. They all usually are the same. In my case, it's 192.168.1.1. That's how you find out where your router is. So that's the IP address you put into your browser. Knock this off, and yeah. Now, before you do anything on your router, you need to disconnect from Wi-Fi. You should never update your firmware using Wi-Fi. Very highly unreliable and very risky. You can, what they call, brick your router, which means you make it dysfunctional using Wi-Fi. But like I said, I got videos to help you recover those, and I'll put cards up top of the video for that, up to screen for those. So. Let's go to the IP address, 192.168.1.1. Of course, you're going to have to log in with whatever username and password you put in there. So let's just assume that you don't know what that is. This is what you do. With the router powered up, which is this one is completely powered up right here. You can see all the lights are on. Take your toothpick, put it in the reset hole, and press that down. Hold it down for 7 seconds. And what that will do is it will reset your router. And you want to reset your router and start with a factory default right off the bat anyway. So we're doing it right now. You should always do this as part of the procedure of upgrading the firmware, because it wipes any of your configurations out and goes back to factory, which is the safest way to do this. So there, I've reset it. And like usually you have to hold that down while it's powered up for 7 or 8 seconds, okay? And that's it. It resets it. So here, I'm just going to hit cancel and wait for that router to come back up. It takes a little bit, so I'll wait for it to come back up. Once it powers back up, I'll pick up the video from there, and then we'll continue on. All right, got it rebooted here. It's doing its light flashing thing, and then we're going to go back to 192.168.1.1 for myself. That's the default anyway. And it's asking for a username and password, and because once you reset it, it goes to the factory default username and password, which is admin, and password. And you know, not really super secure, but we're not going to have it on there very long anyway. So because we're taking this stock firmware off and putting the third-party firmware on. Okay, so the username is password. Sorry, the username is admin and the password is password. Everything is lowercase, both cases. And we're in. You know, nicely, I've got the latest version of this software in here. So it asks you right away to change the password. You don't have a choice, which is a good thing. And I'm going to do that. You're going to have to. And here, you're going to have to select a question. I'm just putting bogus information in here because, like I said, in 5 minutes, this firmware will no longer be on this router anyway. But you got to choose questions and then put answers to it right at this point. Notice here that there's no next button. What you do is you put your cursor back in the last answer and then you hit enter. It's not really, you know, all that user friendly, but once you do that and hit enter, you get into the router, which is where we are right here. And you get these reminders, Netgear Armor, just click the X on that. Go to the advanced tab. And sometimes a circle thing shows up too. I'm surprised it didn't show up this time. And then when you hit the advanced tab, go over here to administration and router update. And that's where the router update feature is. And on this router, we already have the latest version. Currently, it is this big number up here. Let's get rid of this. This one right here. Okay? It's 0.120, the last 3 digits on it. But regardless, it doesn't matter because we're going to update the firmware. And this is how you do that. You click on Browse, go to where you downloaded the firmware, and you choose the factory to DD-WRT CHK file. Choose it, hit Open, then hit Upload. Continue. All existing internet connections will be terminated. Of course, the router has to reboot for this stuff to go on. So here we're going to go OK. And it says, warning, the firmware version you're trying to upload is older than the one you had. Do you still want to continue? It's nice that Netgear gives you that option, other than saying no way. So you say yes. And it's going to take about 2 minutes to do this. So I'll let this progress through. And when it's done, I'll pick it up on the other side and show you what happened after we've got that finished. Okay, so I'm going to just let this go through and then basically pick it up at the end. All right, this is the default web page you're going to get to. If you do not get here, all you need to do to get to this web page is type in this 192.168.1.1 and it will direct you to this. And nicely, just like the newest Netgear firmware, it asks you to put a username and password. Use whatever username you wish to use. I'll just use the standard one here. And put in a password here. Make sure you get it right. Make sure you remember what it is. And you really can't get it wrong because it won't let you go through unless both passwords match. Watch out for the caps lock. That sometimes messes you up too. So here I'm going to hit change credentials and boom, here we are. Let me take this down a little bit so we can see more on the screen. And roll it over there. There we go. Now you're seeing what is DD-WRT. We are now flashed to the start. But remember, I said there's 2 files, so we have to go and do this again. Go back over here to administration. It's going to ask you for the password, username and password you put in there, and I'm going to do that, and you will too. There we go. And we're going to go to firmware upgrade, because remember, always 2 files to flashing this router. Go to Browse, and then we're going to go to Netgear R7000. We did the factory check. This one is a different file. And you notice there are different sizes, so they're slightly different. You need to do both files, and you need to do this one last. So we're going to put that in there. Then we're going to hit upgrade. And it's going to go through its thing. Again, this process usually takes 3 to 4 minutes. So instead of sitting here watching that happen, I'll pick it up when we're done. And then I'll show you how to configure this router with DD-WRT, and also show you some of the cool features on it. And then you can go and play with yours, right, and see what you can do. Again, and then another thing too, just while this is happening, you know, you don't need to have an R7000 to run this firmware. It's just I'm basing it on the R7000, but not all routers will have the same capabilities with this firmware either, because not all routers have the same hardware. But you know, if you've got something you want to play with, an older router, maybe see if it's on the list of supported routers for DD-WRT, and do what I showed you to do here, okay? And read the instructions on how to flash that router on DD-WRT. Lots of forums and lots of support for this out there on the internet. So I'll wait for this to pick up and then we'll continue on. Okay, it's done its thing. It said upgrade was successful there, but it's come to this page because the router takes so long to reboot that the web page times out. So once again, just take this part off here and make it 192.168.1.1 and hit enter. And let's see if it cached my password. Your browser may do that as well, so you may or may not have to put your username and password in to go in here. We've done the upgrade. We're now on this version of DD-WRT, the R52869, and you know, that's beautiful. Actually, don't think that's the latest one. If we go over here, this is easy to find out. FTP. Oh, sorry. DD-WRT FTP. There we go. And you'll see that there's a bunch here. And I'm going to go to 2023. Scroll down to the bottom. Yeah, for some reason I got 869, not 894. I'm going to download that again. Control F, R7000. There it is. Factory. Yeah, that's why I went to the wrong place. When I used the wrong file, but I used 869. I should have been using the desktop folder here, and it has these files. Okay, but we're okay. I'll upgrade that later, and the upgrade procedure is exactly the same. Just firmware flash both files to the next version. So again, same procedure. Choose the check file first, and then use the bin file second every time. A lot of people say you don't need to do that. Just do it. It takes an extra 5 minutes or 4 minutes. Just do it. It works better that way. So, so here we are. We got DD-WRT installed. You can see all the configurations, wireless, all this stuff is in here. Really, really cool stuff. IPv6, you know, on and on and on. Go to status, see what's going on. Tells you everything about it. Very, very cool. Over here on bandwidth, not much going on there, but I can make something go on here. Let's, well, see, you can see here how cool that is. It shows you a live representation of what's going on. You know, it says auto scale, and it says in 30 kilobits per second, 34 kilobits per second out. So, you know, you can see that what's going on. Very, very neat. System information. You can log everything. Just incredibly powerful, okay? NAT, QoS. NAT is a network address translation. You can play with that. QoS is quality of service, which means you can throttle certain things. Like if your kids use a lot of video, you can say, okay, I want video to use less bandwidth, so I have more for whatever else I'm doing. Just endless, right? How much you can do here. I use it as a NAS. If you go over here to services, you'll see that you have VPN, USB, and NAS. You can set up USB to give you a printer, connect a printer to this, and a hard drive at the same time, because this has got 2 USB ports. And I do that. It works great. I use it. I have a 4 terabyte drive on mine. It works super great. I may do videos on that in the future. Right now, we're just going to set it up to make it work as fast as possible for you. So go over here to setup. Automatic configuration for the WAN type is standard with most routers. You shouldn't have to play with that at all. But if you do, this is where you go to change that. Router name, you can change it to whatever you want. Here, this is a crucial setting. This shortcut forwarding engine SFE is slow. This is a slow way of moving data. If you go click on this and you choose CTF, and then you go down here to flow acceleration and choose CTF and FA, excuse me, this is the most well, actually, it's the fastest setting for your router. Choose that. And then over here on SDP, make sure you choose SDP and turn it on. And at this point, you can change your IP address if you wish here. Your DHCP server, if you don't know what that is, doesn't matter. It's on anyway, and you need that to get IP addresses on your router, on your network. So again, at this point, change your time zone to where you are. Time is extremely important on a network, okay? And I know it's weird, right? But it is. And so things get messed up if your router is not advertising the right time or not on the right time. So set it, and then you click save. Now, save and apply are two different things. If you apply a setting and you don't save it, next time you reboot, you go back to your old saved settings. If you save a setting and you don't hit apply, it won't take until the next reboot. It'll just be saved. Your old settings will just still be there. So I saved it, and then if I hit apply, it will set these settings. But I've got other settings to make at this point. So then let's go over to wireless, and I'll show you how to crank that up if you want to. Now, wireless, this is a dual channel, 2.4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz router. So, for me, in my environment, I leave the 2.4 gigahertz in the most friendly setting there is, and that's this one right here, the default setting. Now you can change obviously the service identifier, so that what that means, the SSID, you can change that to whatever you wish. You can change the frequencies, and you can change in this case the channel width to 40. 40 will make it a lot faster, well, twice the speed, not twice the speed, but faster. You can play with these settings to see if you can get a better number, better speed. But 40, say you have an old Wi-Fi camera and it can't do 40 megahertz, it might have a problem connecting to 2.4. So 2.4 anyways, I don't use it. I have a lot of devices that do. I just leave that alone. But like I said, you can play with this to make it faster. What I care about is the 5 gigahertz side. So on this side, what I do is I crank it up. I go to network mode here, and I choose, I usually choose AC and N mixed, but you can go AC only. The problem is when you start playing with these settings and taking it up to the highest settings, other stuff that, like, you might have 5.4 gigahertz devices that can't connect on AC. So you'll play with it and find what you want, but I'll show you the fastest setting. It's AC. You can change the service identifier to whatever you want. Channel, auto, right now it's okay. We'll leave that. Here, the fastest you're going to get on this channel width is 80. So if you want speed, that's what you're going to choose. Explicit beamforming, definitely want that. Implicit beamforming, you want that. Airtime fairness, I leave it off. You can play with that if you wish. Again, this is all about experimenting anyway, so you can do that. Here, again, I'm going to hit save. And I haven't applied anything yet. So all the settings are the same way they were originally. But once I reboot or apply these things, actually the router will reboot when I apply them. That's why I haven't. So here we're going to wireless security. And make sure that you're set up this way. By default you are. I'm going to change the password here to something more reasonable. So these routers come with a sticker on the bottom of them that has the Wi-Fi password on them. So that's inherently completely insecure. Number one. Number two, if you watch this video, you go back, you'll see the password, because Netgear advertises the password on the start screen of the stock firmware. Another reason why you don't want stock firmware, somebody looking over your shoulder would see that password. And you guys probably can see it in the video. So it doesn't matter because I'm changing it. So you do that as well. All right. Don't leave the default password. Like I said, there's a sticker on the bottom of your router. Your kids will figure that out and they'll, crack into your router. So change it. So here we hit save again. Now at this point, I'm pretty well done. Changing these settings, but I want to show you a few things more here. You can filter here by MAC address, so you can tell the router this MAC address, which is the address of a network card or device. Don't let it on or let it on. You can restrict things that way. It's really cool. You have access restrictions up here as well if you want to go there. Don't want to get too in the weeds on this. WL0 Advanced and WL1 Advanced, those are the radio settings for each one of your radios. There's two in this router because you've got 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz, and they're separate circuits. And you can, WL0 is the 2.4, and you can go down here, and this is why I'm showing you this. You can say Bluetooth coexistence mode. You can turn that on if it makes your life better. But in here, let's see, max beacon interval in here. Transmission rate, basic rate. In here, I don't know if this one has it or not, but one of these has, there it is, TX power. Okay, that's what I was looking for. You can actually increase the transmission power. It's at 71 right now, but you can crank it up so that it throws off more radio signal. Now, problem with that is that your router is going to get warmer, and more power is not necessarily always a good thing, so you can vary it. That's really neat, right? Same over here. I'm leaving it with the default, so I'm just going to put that back to auto. And over here on WL1, you can do that also on your 5 gigahertz. It's again set to 71 as well. So play with that if you wish and see if you get a better result. So here I'm just going to hit save again. Actually, I'll put this on auto and save again. I find the auto setting for the power works great. And hit apply, but you can play with it. But you can't do that on the stock firmware that comes from Netgear. You just can't. So okay, so now it's rebooting, and I'll pick this up when it comes back up, and then we'll do a little testing with it, and then you can go play with this all you wish. Right? That's my basic setup, my basic, speed tweaking. Beyond that, you can play and tweak it some more and make it better or worse, or like I said, experiment. This is all about having fun here, right? And in the future, I will my next video will be how to take this stuff off this router, okay? So here, I'm just going to hit continue and then pick it up when the router finishes rebooting. Okay, we rebooted. Let's just hit continue here. I took the opportunity of that break to take this up to the 52894 latest version, and that's done by, just like I showed you, flashing those two files from the FTP site, the check and the bin file. So I've done that. Doesn't matter. We're back up and running. Everything should be working right now. I do have a WAN IP address, which means I should be on the internet. So let's go over here to, let's go do a little speed test, fast.com. Not that great. I got 1 gigabit service, which usually means I get about 800 to 900 megabits per second. But I know that Windows is notoriously awful at giving you proper speed tests. So this number is not great. But I don't think that's the router's fault. I think that's Windows' fault. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Ethernet to USB 3 gigabit adapter, plug it into my on-the-go adapter, and or dongle, or whatever you wish to call it. I'm going to hook it up to my phone. So I'm going to start that up here, and we'll do a speed test on the phone on the same router connected through Ethernet there. Okay, so let's start my screen recording here. Screen recorder, there we are. Okay, start the recording. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put the phone on airplane mode. I'll show you this on the screen. Airplane mode. Okay, so now the phone is on airplane. I'm going to plug this adapter to it and go, and the Ethernet end, I'm going to take a cable straight from the router's, one of the LAN ports on the router, plug it in, and I'm getting activity there shown by the blinking light on the Ethernet adapter. This is what we got. Then minimize all this, and I am on airplane mode. Yes, I am. Okay, I'm going to go into an incognito here and type in fast.com, which is the same site we were just at. Go to fast.com and let it cycle through and see what we get. It might make a liar out of me. I don't know. We'll give it a couple times anyways. So far, not great. But I think that's a connectivity issue. I'm going to try that again. Actually, okay. All right, that's getting a little crazy, right? 3.4 gigabits per second. Yeah, that's considerably faster. Let's. I'm going to unplug this thing because I actually don't believe that number. Let me plug it back in again. Okay, looks like I'm getting connectivity. I hit this button one more time. Back online, it says. Yeah, I'm questioning the reliability of the test altogether. Okay, I'm getting flashing lights here. I'm getting the phone cycling through. And what I'm going to do, I have this on an app. I'm going to put it on the app. So get rid of that. And there's fast right there. Okay. That's more like it. Wow. Okay. So now I'm getting 800, which is a reasonable, not 3.4 gigabits. I still don't believe that one. Maybe it happened, but I don't think so. But regardless, now we're getting 820 megabits per second, which is completely understandable on my network. You know, I'm satisfied with that speed. I wish I was getting the full 1 gigabit, but I'm on a cable modem, so it varies, right? Sometimes I get more, so it depends on how many people are at home. Today is Sunday, so my neighborhood might be a little busy. I'm going to hit the refresh here and see if I get any better number on the screen, and not really, right? But that's not the router's fault. Well, the 410 is a little better. Because, like I said, right now, I've got this connected to the back of the router, and it's running DD-WRT, and I'm getting 810. And that's why I always use my cell phone to test network speeds, because I can actually, for the most part, except for that first time, totally believe these numbers. Depends on what device I'm using, I get a different number. But with the cell phone, I always get a good number. And if you hook up through Wi-Fi or want to test Wi-Fi, use your cell phone, because your cell phone is really a marvelous networking device. So again, I got a video on showing you how to do this connection too. I'll put that up there. And the Ethernet to gigabit adapter once again comes in really handy, doesn't it? Okay. Let me stop that. Okay. That's it on all this. Let me show you something else that's kind of cool here. Go to status, bandwidth, and I'll hit that test again on the phone so that you can know it's happening. So let me record this again. Screen record, and start recording. All right. Now, see all the bandwidth. You don't get this on this kind of display and metrics on a standard firmware, but you do on this. So I'm going to hit this button again. Come on. There we go. And you'll see everything spiking. And, again, you can see here on bandwidth monitoring LAN, because I'm connected to it through the local area network, that it just went up to 832 megabits, I think. 838.86 and beyond, though it doesn't show that here. If I hit it again, you'll see it spiking up again, right? Isn't that neat? Wow. Did you see that? 8.39 gigabits. Wow. It's pretty crazy numbers, right? But again, I trust this on my phone. And yeah, some of more of the neat things you can do with this router. You can see all the data flowing through here. And like I said, there's so much to learn and play with here. It's insane. So that's it for my video. If you like this video, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up on the bottom right here, or on the bottom of the screen. It's a like. That helps my channel and it helps my video and it helps me to grow on YouTube, so I really appreciate that. In the video description, I'll put links for all this stuff that I use in this video, including that really neat on-the-go adapter and the Ethernet adapter. Love those two things. And again, affiliate links in the video description below. Use them and help me out, please. Also, if you like my content and you like my channel, please subscribe to the channel. And as a part of the process of subscribing, you'll see a bell icon. Click on the bell icon and you'll be notified every time I put up a new video. And then you can watch it at your own leisure. So please do that as well. Again, comments section. In the comments section below the video, I do read the comments and reply to them very regularly. If you've got suggestions for videos or just suggestions, if you have anything you want to say to me, just put it in the comments section. I do watch them. I do respond to them regularly. So down in the comments section, do that for me as well. All right. Again, and just like always, thank you very much for watching. Stay healthy, stay happy, and we'll see you in the next video.